Hello, I'm Debbie Reeves, and welcome to the Living Inspired podcast. I believe the greatest gift you can give yourself is permission to live the life that you were meant to live from the point of inspiration instead of exertion, obligation, and expectation. This is your time to shift from worry to ease, from fear to love, from lack to abundance, and from living a mediocre life to, hey, life is fun and you are thriving. Your guide to living inspired starts right now. Part of my job is to ask people the question, what do you do for work, and how does your injury affect your work? I'm a physical therapist, and last week I was evaluating a man in his late 40s, and I asked him, what do you do? He hesitated and said that he was in between jobs because he was changing careers. He suddenly had a shift in what was most important. It is a shift. It's a shift in priorities and purpose during this post-pandemic world. And it's happened recently because people started to contemplate their jobs, relationships, living situations, wondering, is this all there is to life? And they call it the Great Realization because people during the lockdown had time to think and ponder and assess what really is important. And the Great Realization has led to the Great Resignation in the corporate world, where people are leaving their 9-to-5 jobs and pursuing their passion and purpose. And that's also caused the corporate world to consider reorganization of how they do things, because a lot of us have had the experience to work remotely, and suddenly corporations know that the cost of overhead might not be necessary anymore. And in the real estate world, it's called the Great Relocation because a lot of people are suddenly picking up and relocating to other parts of the country or the world where they feel that life will be better. So the Great Realization is a term that refers to the message of hope and resilience, of rebirth and renewal, when people were not working their jobs during the lockdown and we were simply connecting, quieting what's going on around us, and being a little more still, living life a little more simply and quietly, and just taking it all in and reassessing. So you have an inner guide, an inner GPS system that knows the way to your purpose, to your greatest life experience, and to all that you are meant to live and become. So imagine getting into your car and you are headed on a fun and fantastic journey, and you plug in the destination into your navigation system. And you don't know, when you enter in the location of your destination, you don't know the turns, the scenic routes, or the upcoming traffic, or any of those things. You simply just know where you want to go, but you don't really know exactly how to get there, and you can't foresee the detours that you might encounter. So as you get settled into your car, the navigation system pops up a bunch of different routes. There's the walking route, which is going to be cheaper because gas is so expensive right now, but it's going to take a whole lot of time to get there if you walk. There's the public transportation route, there's the scenic route, the shortest route, the quickest route, the route through a certain city or by different viewpoints, or, there's a bunch of choices. Same thing with life. Our inner guide is standing at the point where it knows you want to go and where your purpose is. And there are many routes to take. And it's up to us, to you, to choose which route to select. And like the car, there is the slow route, the quick route. And as you get better at learning how to listen to your inner guide, you'll be able to affect how quickly or slowly what you are meant for comes into play. So as we start to drive, we are moving forward towards that voice that is calling to us, whether you have the male butler sounding man or the woman talking to you. We could listen intently to that voice as it directs us, or we could sit there and talk to our friend and get engrossed in conversation. We can listen to our favorite radio station and the music that's playing and miss the turnoff, or we can simply just get lost. But our guide reroutes us. When we get lost, our guide doesn't yell at us and say, "You stupid idiot, why did you do that? You're not good enough for this. You can't do it. They can do it, but you don't have what it takes." No, our inner guide and our GPS system doesn't do any of that. It simply reroutes us and keeps giving us options. And so there are many ways that we will talk about listening to our inner GPS. But one easy way to pick up on signals is to assess and figure out how our body feels and responds to the people, thoughts, situations, circumstances that we experience in life. When you are thinking about this one person, do you have a pit in your stomach or do you feel ease? When you're in a job situation, do you have tense shoulders or are you relaxed? When you are listening to that new job description, are you leaning in or leaning away? Do you feel solid on your feet or are you feeling like your feet are getting a little like swaying back and forth underneath you? Are you breathing shallowly or are you breathing easily? So like the polygraph test picks up on our heart rate, blood pressure, our perspiration, when we say different phrases, it picks up on if we are telling the truth, our truth, or telling something that is not in alignment with our truth, or something that is false. So the same thing, our body responds to the truth that is meant for you. Those people that appreciate science will understand that we used to believe that at the smallest unit that we were protons, electrons, and neutrons at the atomic level. But we now understand that at the very smallest infinitesimal subatomic level, we're actually energy, vibration, frequency. Those who lean more towards spirituality will understand that we are an extension of this divine source of energy. Those who emphasize scripture will understand when we talk about the prophet Jeremiah writing in his first chapter of the book in the Bible, he said, "Before you were in your mother's womb, I knew you." Jeremiah, in Jeremiah 1:5, is talking about how God knew you, knew the spirit of you, before you were physical matter. And in Genesis 1:1, the very first book of the Torah and the Bible, it says the Spirit was present. The Spirit of God was present even before there was light and water and land and earth and the world and everything in it, including humans. The Spirit of God was present. So your body has a spirit. Your body has a spirit within. It is inspired. The spirit within you knows all that you want, all that you are meant to experience and become. And that spirit is calling you all the time towards all that you are meant for. So I have 2 degrees in science. I come from a long line of pastors. My dad, my grandpa, even my 8th great grandpa baptized George Washington. So it's not either science or spirituality. We're going to combine the two because I believe that science confirms spirituality. And the human mind and body are meant to follow the spirit. But the mind has a mind of its own, and our thoughts are very loud, they're constant, and at sometimes, most of the time, practically all of the time, our thoughts tend to drown out our inner GPS that is leading us to good and to purpose. So there is the thinking part of our mind, and then there is knowing that comes from a deeper place. Thinking originates in our human mind, and it includes expectations, both other people's and our own. It includes beliefs based on life's past experiences and what others have taught you, what your teachers, your parents, your mentors, influencers have all taught you. And they've all taught you things that influence your belief system. And it is this constant chatter that also includes comparison and some lack and fear and believing that you have to figure everything out on your own because you are all in this by yourself and there's no one else that's helping you. But knowing comes from the connection to the divine force within all of us. Knowing sees what is present and what is possible. And knowing comes from the spirit within. So when you know something, there is a feeling of certainty. There is a feeling of ease and joy and peace and excitement when you just know something is right for you. And when you know something, you can also be rest assured that because that knowing comes from the extension of everything that the divine energy that created everything in the world, you can know that there will be the resources, the provisions, the opportunities when the time is right for you to move forward. So living inspired is learning to listen to the spirit within. It is learning to follow your inner guide rather than listening to the outside influences that don't even know what's possible for you. I often think about when we listen to the mind's perspective on what's possible, it's kind of like asking a stranger for directions to the way to your home. It just doesn't make sense. So knowing is knowing that you are capable and meant to experience more. Living inspired is learning how it feels when your inner GPS is guiding you rather than thinking you have to figure it all out on your own every step of the way. Following your inner GPS it frees you to enjoy the journey along the way because you don't have to worry. And like Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, you realize that you've had the power all along to know your way home. So living inspired, you still hit the bumps along the way. You still experience the challenges, the obstacles. You know, sometimes there's fear and things like that, but it's definitely smoother, more enjoyable. For those of you that know me, you know that I have my little white bug, VW bug, that I love so much. It's turbo, it's so fun, it's cute, and I will keep it for the rest of my life. But the problem is, the one thing that I don't like about it is when I drive 30 minutes on the freeway to my job, I hit and feel every little bump. The suspension really isn't that great. And recently, with the gas prices going up so high, I've been considering getting an electric car or some type of hybrid just to ease the gas price and the expense of all of that. So recently, Tim and I test drove a BMW iX. It's the electric version of their SUV. And we got in and just it took off, and I felt like I was on the smoothest roller coaster, like the one at California Adventure where you just like, whoo, take off so quickly and it's just really smooth. And I was noticing that when we were driving around town in familiar places where I knew there were bumps in the road because my little bug hit every one of those, but in this BMW, the electric version, it was just smooth. I think I told the salesperson, I feel like I'm in a hovercraft because it was just the smoothest ride. And that's what living inspired is like. You still hit the bumps. You still hit the obstacles. You still are challenged. But you realize that everything is working out in your favor and you have more resources than might meet the eye. When you live inspired, there's also abundance. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about miracles. We'll talk about how you know you're making the right decision and how to step into your purpose. Because when you are living your purpose, you are impacting the world in the greatest of ways. So this is a combination of stories, science, spirituality, scripture. We'll talk about quantum physics, and we'll talk about all kinds of different things. We'll have inspired guests, divine discussions, insights into infinite intelligence, and we'll be relating them all to life situations, struggles, challenges, obstacles related to work, direction, love, relationships, self-love, health, eating, fitness, making decisions, and above all, learning how to follow your spirit within in all instances. And we're going to laugh and have a great old time all along the way. Welcome to Living Inspired.